Retired engineers, sit down, be quiet. It's only the retired engineers who call. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay. Welcome to meeting 214, if I remember correctly, of TMG, the MAC Group. I'm Bill Herrick, current president of the organization. Ms. Toller, where are you? Kathy?
I'm always there.
Yeah. Do you have the welcome, the sheet that of people who are visiting today? So we're going to start our normal agenda. Oh. All right, we're going to follow our normal agenda. We will start with what's called the welcome, where we have guests or new members. We ask the guests to stand up and to introduce themselves to us, tell us what kind of Mac they have or want to have, and what they will do with it or what they want to do with it. And so I'm going to start with Reggie Turner. Where are you at, Reggie?
Good morning, everybody. I have several Macs. I have a few MacBook Pros, Mac Mini Server, MacBook Air, or Mac. I have several Macs.
Okay.
I just want to really stay current to what happens, what's going on. I use them in various capacities at home.
Okay. So what do you use your Macs for? What do you do with them?
Well, right now I'm developing an education services business, and that's going to be the primary platform that I use. That's what I purchased the service for, to kind of network the business side. The other Mac Mini I'm using for a home network.
Okay.
For my kids and my wife, etc.
Okay, thank you.
Did I cover everything?
Yes, you did.
Welcome.
Now, say hello to Reggie. And then another visitor we have is Candy Boyle.
Yes, I am Candy,
Hi, Candy.
and I have one MacBook and one iPod Touch, and I've been a Mac person for a couple of years, so I feel like I could have educated myself enough before I'd be here now. My focus is in music, not in performing, but in taking multitudes of music and putting it on said computer. And I'm an audiophile, so I'm very, very picky.
Mm-hmm.
And my next purchase will probably be a Mac Mini, which I'm going to need some help as an audiophile souping up with a solid-state hard drive and a few other things. And I will be attaching an external burner to the Mac Mini and getting some software from a place called Pure Music, and then downloading some high-end audiophile tracks. We would have commonly called them SACD.
Okay.
So the broadband type.
I think you know stuff I don't know. Good.
So I figured, because I need someone that has a little knowledge in terms of Mac Minis and souping things up.
Okay.
And then my iPod Touch had a problem, and I had a Mac friend that thought he knew how to move the music files off and put them elsewhere, and kind of messed it up. But one of the sweethearts from the Woodburn Library is a Mac girl, and she cleaned it up. So I've got a couple external hard drives with just all music on it, and unfortunately my iPod Touch suffered, and we've got things to reload except for...
Take a breath. Thank you for telling us what's going on. And say hello to Candy at the break. General idea, how a user group works? Okay. The source of... Oh. Roger, you want to introduce yourself?
Roger Hartman, and first time here, so I'm just here to learn more about Macs. I'm a Mac guy for about 5 years, I guess.
Okay.
And so I know a little, but not everything.
Okay. Okay. Anyway, the whole idea behind the user group, if you get enough people in the room and you ask a question, somebody has the answer. Now, you may have to tune out for a little bit while they tell you, oh, Lord, that took forever to figure out. First I did this. You just sort of tune that out until they said, and then I realized. Then you listen and you write down what they say because that's the answer. So, again, it's not all information. Source of all knowledge is not me. Source of knowledge is the group. We're like a fountain. Does the fountain keep any water for itself? No. And what do we produce in this group? Knowledge. No.
I'm trying to drain it all.
Okay. So, but the thing is, all right. Share a little secret. I just turned 60. And what I've learned is that I'm starting to forget stuff I knew. So it's like that milk jug that's got that hole in it. So it's leaking milk. Well, I just keep pouring in faster than it leaks out. And that way, we're still good.
Happy birthday.
I wasn't too sure about when I got that Buckeye card. All right. We also have 2 new members, Lynn Johnson and Michael Molyneux. Where are you off, Mike?
Not yet.
Okay.
So I paid my $30 and we'll see after today.
You're on probation.
All right. So anyway, next thing that we do after the welcome, we didn't miss anybody else, did we? Okay. You're doing a very good substitute job for Mr. Kirk. The next thing that we do is we handle if there's any new news in the area that we need to know about that's Mac related. I'm just going to tell you what I'm aware of. There's a small company called Adobe Systems. They're known primarily for their PostScript and for Adobe Acrobat and Adobe PDFs, portable document files. And they're also known for a technology called Flash. Now, Flash was a technology that the late Mr. Jobs did not want to have on the iPads, the iPhones, or the iPod Touches. And several naysayers... Do you charge for those photos that you take? No? Okay.
Start charging you if you want me to.
Some of the naysayers said that the reason why the iPad would not fly was because it didn't allow Flash. It wouldn't use that Flash technology. Well, Adobe just announced that it stopped future development of Flash for mobile devices. So that would be not just the iPad, but all mobile devices. So it looks like Flash is going to go away as a technology. And that's a good thing. It served its purpose back in the late 80s, the mid-1990s. But there are security problems with Flash that they've never been able to resolve. And it's gotten to be a joke in my house. You know, my wife says, does anything need to be updated on the Mac? And I go, well, yeah, Flash. And she said, yeah, but you just did that last week. I go, yeah, and the week before and the week before. So that's one thing that's going on. So the marketplace is still working. There's other technologies that can fill in for Flash that I think are more efficient. Let's see, other new stuff. New operating system for the mobile devices. Did you want to talk about that, Mr. Baldwin?
Not the mobile operating
Okay.
system.
But there's a new operating system for the iPads, the iPhones, the iPod Touches called iOS 5. And that allows you to do some really neat things. I won't go into any details of that. Yes, I know. And I just did it without being tethered to a computer yesterday. And that's a good thing. So that's what I'll just say about that. Mr. Baldus, what do you have to share?
On a note related to your flash news, it appears that Microsoft will not be providing Silverlight support outside of Windows and Internet Explorer for the next update. So if any of you use any sites that rely on Silverlight, which would be typically streaming video, things of that nature, you can expect that to become an issue. It's not as widespread as Flash by any means, but it's apparently going the way of Flash.
So again, this is all of that technology that lets us watch these videos over the internet, music, that sort of stuff, what's called streaming technology, video technology. So there's other protocols that they have that are filling the vacuum there. Anybody else with anything? Yes,
I have a
Chuck?
question on your iOS 5. I had talked to Verizon and asked them why they were not up to date with what AT&T was doing, and they kind of gave me the thing that they were not in charge at all of it. It was all Apple. What do you know about who's controlling the OS updates on the iOS 5 devices?
The people who own the network that it's on really control that process. So I don't think the folks at Verizon were totally accurate when they said that. So their IT people are the ones who decide that their network, the way their cell phone stuff works, that it's going to be compatible with that new version.
Or they have a version that is compatible with their transmission.
Correct. So, but they're the ones who actually make the decision whether they're going to put it on the device yet or not. And we learned that when we were doing the U.S. Senate was calling people in because, oh my God, they suddenly realized that cell phones know where they are. What's called location services. And if you remember, there were some updates that were then provided by Apple, because Apple wanted to get the Senate off of their case. Let's get out of the limelight with that. That's bad publicity. You don't want to go there. If you remember, Verizon was late getting it because they needed to do some stuff with their network before that 431, something like that.
Verizon never went to 4.3.
So they're still there. Ooh.
So they went to, they upgraded to 5.0, but they haven't yet announced the 5.01.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it is.
On Verizon?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I didn't check recently.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
Does the iOS 5 work with iPod Touch 4? Or is it?
You would have to check the Apple website on
Works
specific
back to
models
3.
it works with.
Pardon me?
Goes back as far as 3.
So it does work.
Yeah, search engine.
Is that a free download or is that
Yes.
cost? iOS 5 free?
Yep.
Yeah, if you plugged into iTunes recently, it should be telling you.
And it wasn't just an operating system update. Similar to what happens when Mac updates their operating system. When Apple updates their operating systems for the Macintosh computers, you'll have applications that are considered to be bundled with the operating system will get tweaks and updates and that sort of thing. So with the iOS 5 update for the mobile devices, we got a new application called Reminder. On the iPad, they took a program for playing music that was called iPod, and they renamed it Music, which was really good because I was tired of having to explain to someone with an iPad why they had a program called iPod on their iPad. And they also added a program called Messages that lets you do texting between Apple devices. And they then put in a whole bunch of other stuff in the web browser. They changed some things in Safari. They put the ability to edit photos inside the Photos app. I mean, just wow. I'm still finding stuff that they did. And multi-touch gestures. So a lot of good stuff. If you have a mobile device, an iPad, iPhone, iPod Touch, and it's new enough that it can run iOS 5, I would strongly recommend that you go to iOS 5. Good stuff. Yes?
when you go to iOS 5, you have to do that connected online, so that all future updates to iOS 5.
Correct. So the first time you've got your cable, or as one of my students calls it, string. I like that. We'll just call them string. So you've got your string plugged into your iPad, whatever it is, and the other end is plugged into your computer that's running iTunes. And then you click in the sidebar on your device, and then you click that update button, it downloads it, and then it puts it on. Once you've done that, then you can just bring up the device, go to settings, and in there you're going to see a thing that says update, software update, and you can wirelessly update without being connected to anything. And that's a good thing, I think. So, okay, I think we're pretty much done with news. Somebody has some other items? Yep.
Wirelessly, you mean through 3GS as opposed to through a computer?
Okay. Wirelessly, as in if you got two different levels of doing this stuff wirelessly. Okay. One level, you've got Wi-Fi in the device. So your device has that receiver transmitter where it can do Wi-Fi. All right. So when I take my iPad home and it's turned on, and I've got one of my computers that it's been associated with turned on, it sees that iPad in the sidebar of iTunes even when they're not physically connected. And I can say, hey, update it. And it'll do it automatically if your mobile device is plugged into the wall out.
If you're running Lion.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to be running Lion. No, you could be running Snow Leopard and still do wireless update. You can't do iCloud, but you can do wireless update. Because my Mac Mini is still on Snow Leopard. And that's the box that I connect this to.
Okay.
He's skeptical.
Yeah.
I can hook it up to the projector and show you where it says that we connected it. That box is running Snow Leopard. I know it is. Because I still run Quicken on it. Okay. Let's do for sale and wanted. Anybody have stuff that they've got for sale today?
He says with a sly smile. I've got a 22-inch cinema display left. It's an 80C version. So if you're not on an older Mac or have an adapter, you'll need to buy an adapter. But it will do 1920 by 1600. And if you're willing to buy it for more than $50, I'll throw in a power brick today. So it's a 60-watt. It's got a MagSafe connector on it. So talk to me afterwards if you're interested.
Are the adapters still available? I just tried to buy an adapter, and after going through several days of searching and communicating with people at Apple, they said they don't make them anymore. So
Right.
Apparently can only buy the adapters from third parties.
On eBay.
Okay.
Or you get one of the older video cards out of an older Mac that's got that plug on it. Okay.
Bill, the power brick, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's isn't there a not recall, but a replacement for the older?
There is an Apple program for frayed connectors, MagSafe connectors.
Right, for the older
Those are the
ones, not the
that
new
are
ones.
the T connector, not the
Right.
one where it's like a letter L coming in.
And this is the letter L.
Right, that's the newer one. You have one of the old ones.
L.
It's like you bought a replacement adapter.
Yeah, correct. What Shauna just said, which is the way the program works is if you had one of these power bricks and the MagSafe frayed and you ended up buying a replacement, what the program is, they would reimburse you part of the cost.
$79.99.
Yeah. Shauna says $79.99 because she's too shy to stand up and tell us all. That's okay. She's just being nice, but she does a better presentation than I do.
You're jealous.
Okay. Anybody else here? Yes, Ed.
I may have a 17-inch Dell monitor, year and a half old. It's another 6 months warranty left from Staples.
I have to clear this entirely with my wife, who's trying out a different monitor, but I think it's for sale. And, it was initially $5.99 at Staples. See me, I've got all the documentation, and 6 months warranty still left.
Yes, Bill.
17-inch, I'm sorry, I didn't say that.
I have a second generation iPod Touch with 16 gig, and I think I'm going to sell it because I want to upgrade to the most recent one. It's fantastic, but there are some nice things that you mentioned with being able to do OS 5.
Okay.
It's going to be $75.
So, that's Bill Mears talking.
Let you know.
See him at the break on that. Yes, Mr. Baldwin.
This is looking to buy rather than to sell. I'm looking for a video card for a mirror door G4, which is obviously quite a bit older Mac. So if anybody has a junker...
What outputs do you want?
It does...
You want DVI?
DVI, VGA, doesn't matter. VGA probably be better.
I may have one for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but, somebody gives you a better deal.
But anyway, if you had a junker G4, I would be willing to take it off your hands merely for the sake of getting your video card.
Okay, anybody else? Go on. Yes?
I got, just upgraded my RAM and my MacBook Pro.
Okay.
So I've got the old RAM, if anybody, the 667 hertz, megahertz.
Okay, that's the sodium?
Sodium, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, 66.
If you've got a newer iMac, it'll fit in your iMac, which has many more RAM slots than a laptop. So that could be a good deal for someone with a newer iMac.
So I'm going to say we're done with that. I'm not quite done with it. You guys can negotiate. We're going to move on to the one part of the thing, the meeting that I always dread, help desk. All right, we're going to go with Bill Mears.
Okay.
Good stuff, Bill.
Mine is related to my last for sale. I'm going to get a new iPod Touch. I want to move all my paid apps to my new iPod Touch, and I assume I just simply turn them off in iTunes, and then I can load them on a new one. How do I do that?
Okay. So you've got this new iPod Touch.
Yeah. I already paid for all these apps.
Okay. You're going to connect it to the computer that you've been using to back up.
Right.
Okay. That computer is authorized to your iTunes Store account.
Right.
Okay. You're going to authorize your iPod for that same account, and then using iTunes, you're going to tell it, when it shows up in the sidebar, your new device, in the sidebar, you're going to click on that to get your summary screen, and then you're going to click on the Apps button, and you're going to tell the computer which apps to put on it. Now, you also want to deauthorize the old device when you sell it, before you sell it, excuse me. Okay, so that, and then you probably want to... reset the factory. Yeah, reset the factory.
Yeah. Does that deauthorize it?
Just wipe it out and redo it.
Yeah, deauthorize it first and then reset the factory. The Apple website...
iPods
or is that computers? It's also iPods. Pretty sure. Because in the iTunes app, on my wife... Well, I know it knows it. What you do is you sign out of the iTunes. iTunes, you sign out of the account, so it's no longer signed in with that. Yes?
How do you deauthorize?
Deauthorize the computer or deauthorize...
No, exactly like that.
Okay. I would go into, first my iTunes app, and I would tell it, go down the thing, and there's a little thing, tell it, sign out, so you're no longer signed in. Then I go into my settings, and in the iTunes in settings, there's a thing where you can deauthorize it. Have I got that wrong? I got my fact checkers up front checking. They're Googling fast. Oh, they're using Bing. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so anyway, they'll correct me.
It's done through iTunes.
Who else did we have with, yes?
Store.
I send photographs on email sometimes, and a lot of times I plug my camera directly into the laptop Pro.
Okay.
And I pull up my pictures, and then I drag them into email and send them.
Okay.
And some people get them, and they're so huge that they have to, why don't they just come and get them?
Because when you drag them directly from your camera, you're sending them at the same resolution that the camera took the picture. If you take them into iPhoto, okay, part of iLife 11, then it gives you a choice of how big what resolution you want to send it. So if I'm sending a photo to someone and I want them to be able to print it and make like a wall poster, I'm going to send it highest resolution possible. It's going to be a big file. If I'm sending pictures and the expectation is they're just going to look at them in the email and then they're going to hit the delete button, oh, cute, delete, then I don't want to send it full resolution, unless it's my dad, because I do stuff to irritate my dad. Well, yeah, I'll get the email from my sister, your father was saying those bad words again, because I'll send him a high-resolution picture, and then he's got to scroll for like 5 minutes to the side, and then down, and okay. But if you don't want to annoy the person, you want to send it in a lower resolution where it's just showing nicely in the email. iPhoto, if you're emailing directly from iPhoto, it will let you choose what resolution you want to send it. And if I remember correctly, when you're attaching emails using the Apple Mail program, it'll also let you choose what resolution.
Low, medium, high.
Do we have an answer on the deauthorization of the iPods?
We did.
Okay. And was I totally wrong?
No. It is done, deauthorizing your iPod is done by connecting to your iTunes on the computer. You deauthorize the computer, you enter the iTunes account name, and click deauthorize. You insert the docking cable into your computer's USB port and the iPod. Click File and Sync to apply the new authorization settings to the iPod.
Okay. So I was partially.
Would you deauthorize the computer?
No, deauthorize it.
You deauthorize the computer, which sends that setting to the device.
And then when you're done, you
plug
reauthorize
the new device
the
in
computer.
and reauthorize.
Okay. Yes.
It's a free application that allows you to be able to print directly from your iPhone to your printer.
I have found only one that'll do that didn't cost money, and that was ePrint from HP, and it only works with some of their printers. The whole, okay. My understanding is that Apple and HP decided in one of these brain fart moments that they wanted people to buy the new HP AirPrint printers, and so the iPad would natively only print to those. Needless to say, most of us don't want to buy another printer just to print from our iPad or iPhone or whatever. There are other apps that I've tried, and they don't work. Normally, I would say it's pilot error, except I've got a lot of years working with this stuff. In this case, it's programmer error. There is one app that I've seen that does a print server thing, where you install it on your computer, you install it on your mobile device, and then it's doing print services from that. So the computer has to be turned on, it talks to the computer, and then the computer prints. Again, that's jumping through too many hoops for me. So if you have a older HP inkjet type device, you want to, I don't remember all this stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the App Store and I'm tapping on what did I purchase, so I can tell you the name of that app. And it's loading. You know that when I do this, the people in the front row all pick up their iPhones and immediately...
It slows you down.
Just to make me look bad.
Taking up space, huh?
But I'm gonna say, if you did a search for HP on the App Store, if I remember, it's something like Easy Print, or the other thing you can do is, if you send me an email, I've got that stuff at home, because you had to go through a process of, they email you back a code to put into the computer. You don't get there.
Is there a way to actually clean your printer head with Apple like you do with PCs, maintenance function?
Oh, sure. You would go into your, okay, this is easier to show. Okay, now I'm in Lion here, so cut me some slack because I've got to see if this is set up for any of my printers at home. All right, so I'd be going into System Preferences. Second line here, I've got this spot right here called Print and Scan. Go into that. Open Print Queue. That's probably a bad one to use. Let me use this one, Henry PhotoSmart. Open Print Queue. And then I've got this thing right here that says printer. I'm looking for the one where it says utilities. Printer utilities. Yeah, I'm going to say it's this one, printer. And then I go into utilities. Yeah, they don't make it easy. And then when you click printer utility, it's going to open up that utility software that's on your computer that they hid in about 5 different levels. And then it'll do the thing, hey, I would do a test page and clean the nozzle. Let's do this, let's do that. Epson, mileage varies. Canon, mileage varies. Brother, it's pretty much the same deal. Yes, Mr. Decker?
New question. Do you have a good way to check your connection speed, an app or a way of a website for doing that?
Okay.
I was on my computer this morning and I go to a website and it just spin.
Okay.
And I finally tried to check my connection speed, and the place I used to go to now wants me to check my system with a lot of ads.
Yeah.
Speed count.
Okay, I got it in utilities.
That's where I ended up.
Speedtest.net.
Yep. That one. That's the one you want to use. Speedtest.net.
Yeah.
Okay. They also have an app for mobile devices, both iPhones and iPads, and that's what I use when I'm on site at somebody's house. I'm using that to do a speed test on what their network connections are.
Would you repeat it one more time?
Well, it's easier, I think, if I bring up Safari and I just put in speed test, internet. I want to say it's one word, .net. Okay. So this is the one. See if I can get it full screen. So speedtest.net. It does have some advertisement on it. Okay, for the MaxScan program. But this is the one I use. I don't use the one from the company that's selling me my internet access. Because it seems like when I use the XYZ company's program, it always tells me everything's wonderful. And then when I use the other program, I go, oh, it's taking me, 200 nanoseconds to ping New York City. That's not good. That means it's a slow connection, or my download is. But the other thing to keep in mind, though, is somebody using Netflix in the house. Because if somebody's using Netflix, they just took your bandwidth. Okay. Yes, sir.
is there any way to use that 17-inch monitor I said was still good and for sale with my 17-inch iMac? My screen is deteriorating with vertical lines, and I believe you told me that
All right.
get a new computer.
Okay, so you've got the iMac that's got the white case,
It's
white plastic case?
still loaded. It's about 2.5 years old.
No. In terms of when you're looking at it, it's got sort of white plastic case, big screen.
Right.
Okay. On the back of that, there is a video port that you can plug a video adapter into. Now, those video adapters can come out with a VGA plug, or it could come out with a DVI plug, or it could come out with an HDMI plug. Okay. So what your homework assignment is when you get home, you're gonna look at the plug, the cable that's on the end of that monitor, and to see whether it's got
There's documentation for the monitor right here.
Oh, okay.
Did you say the documentation for the monitor right here?
So what I'm gonna say is,
Okay, just look at the documentation.
the answer is yes, you could hook that monitor up to your iMac. It may solve the problem you have depending on what part of your video systems are going bad.
Be the screen, vertical line.
Okay, if it's the screen as opposed to the video card. But there's, the only way to really tell is to plug it in and try it. If you need a video adapter, I've got it. So, Don, do you mind at the break maybe just looking at Ed's documentation to see what he's going to do it right now. All right, we'll go to Lynn.
Sometime back, I inadvertently created a second mailbox in Apple Mail for one of my email accounts, and so now everything shows up twice in two different mailboxes. How do I get rid of one of them without destroying the account and starting over again, or do I have to do that?
Okay.
I've looked at the help files in mail, I've looked at Apple's website.
When you're in Apple Mail, are you clicking on just inbox, or are you clicking on the individual?
I'm talking about inbox. I've got two accounts on the same email.
Okay,
two
so when you
inboxes.
click the little arrow in front of inbox, it expands and it shows you those other email accounts that your inbox has got.
Yeah, I've got two different accounts, but one of them has two inboxes, so there's three things that show up in the inbox when it's expanded.
Okay. The easiest way to take care of that would be to go into your mail preferences. You're saying you've got two inboxes for the same email account.
That's right.
Click on one, in your mail preferences, you've got these cute little icons at the top. You're going to click on the one that says accounts.
Yeah, only one account shows up there. I mean, only, that particular account only shows up once there.
It doesn't show how many.
It doesn't, but it doesn't show up with two different accounts in the accounts.
You're saying it's two inboxes.
Two inboxes on the same account.
Okay, right-click on it and just delete it?
I tried that. That was the first thing I tried. It didn't work. If I do that, it tries to delete the whole account, which takes both boxes out.
The easiest way to take care of the problem is to remember where your mail is. It's up on the server.
I have everything downloaded to the Mac.
Oh, you keep everything on the...
Yeah, I'm not leaving on the server.
Can you create a totally new copy of the same account?
That would work.
And then pull the mail over and then delete the old?
I've thought about saving everything in that account as an archive and then deleting it, but I'm not sure whether the archive gets deleted if I delete the account.
I don't have an answer for this one, because I'm good, but the astral projection thing isn't working for me right now. I tried to go remotely into your computer. What I think happened was you clicked on the mailbox and had it duplicated. So you've got two copies of the same mailbox that's linked to the same account. All right. And I'm assuming you've got business stuff in there that you can't afford to lose. You need to keep the old.
I prefer not to lose several thousand things that are linked to that account, yeah.
Okay. What about migrating his, stuff from, he's got the account set up twice, and then he deletes one and then he migrates. Doesn't mail ask you where you wanna put that, do you wanna link that stuff to? Or is that only with calendars?
Keeps it on the machine, or does it download it all? Still all back there. Or he downloads it. I know, but you just delete the other ones after you download it.
Send me an email, an email. Do you know how to do screenshots, Lynn?
Yeah.
Okay, do a screenshot,
Okay.
okay? I want a screenshot of your mail message window where we can see what's in the sidebar, and then another one of preferences for accounts,
Okay.
okay? Okay, we're gonna go to Elton and then we'll go to George.
I just wanted to ask a question about email, and I speak up just a tad, okay, sorry. This has to do with emails, and I have Earthlink. Somebody's alarm's going off. I have Earthlink as my server, and every time I go to motels or hotels or whatever and try to use their Wi-Fi to send emails through my email application, which is Microsoft Office for Mac's Entourage, that I get a little thing back, you can't send it, you know, but and then I have to go to webmail. I go to webmail and send it, but I can't do it using the application Entourage. Is there or is there not a fix for that?
It has to do with how Earthlink does their stuff, and the fix is to do webmail when you're on the road.
Is Earthlink your ISP at home?
Earthlink is my email, but I'm using my internet is through Roadrunner, Time Warner Cable, Roadrunner. I kept the Earthlink email address because 1 million people have my Earthlink email address, and I didn't want to change it. So I pay them $30 a year to keep the address, but the rest of my internet comes through Time Warner Cable.
So he's probably going through the time,
He's outside Earthlink.
and he's outside Time Warner.
Yeah, but
I just did that recently.
Are you
I
set
just
up
did that
to,
recently.
are you set up to do a secure connection to your email?
Earthlink doesn't take secure, I think. That's what I keep getting, those little those little dialogue boxes come back and say, you know, secure connections don't work with the server, apparently.
What
For some
version of
reason.
Entourage is
I think it's 2008 version of Microsoft Office for Mac.
I know I can't hit my Time Warner account when just from outside the net at all. They just don't.
Yeah, because they don't have their
But if
outgoing
Earthlink
email server.
if Earthlink is acting as a
They're still my server.
independent email, unless it's some sort of tie-in with Roadrunner,
He's restricted.
pop.earthlink.net.
Send the stuff using the Time Warner outgoing email server.
oh, that's pop.
Yeah. So there's some configuration things that we'd have to look at.
I'm similar to Mark, I
Can you
think.
send from here?
I just sent one from here, and it worked.
Maybe a function of the hotel.
Yes,
Yeah.
Maybe a function of what?
the hotel,
The hotel?
yeah.
Yes, Mr. Howe.
I've never been able to get Earthlink to work through mail
All my
in any
Every
hotel,
different ones timed up in.
so I've always gone to webmail.
Can you receive?
No.
Yeah, I can receive.
I can receive
I can
too.
receive in
I can
hotels,
download
but I
all
can't
the-
use their SMTP, I can't
Yeah,
go
they won't
out.
let you send anything out.
the bullet and change out
Right.
your Earthlink.
So that's just the way it is, I guess.
The best way to go is to use, if you're in a hotel, you should use webmail if you're not sure about the security anyway.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Did you get that other problem?
Let's go to Dan, and then, no, let's do George first,
Cindy.
Okay. Are you retired yet? No. Okay. So you're an active engineer. Go ahead.
At least 2 days a week.
I tried to send an email to an incorrect address. I spelled the guy's name wrong. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. That is still in I'm using mail.
Okay.
That incorrect address is still in the list of addresses.
Okay.
How do I delete it?
Okay. Let me just do let's see, how do I want to do this? We go to my mail program. Now, I'm in Lion, and I picked out in Lion, but I'm thinking it should work the same way. So I'm in my mail program.
Right.
I go to my Windows menu. In my Windows menu, there's a thing called Previous Recipients. I select that. All right, now in this particular case, I'm doing sandboxing here. I'm running off of an external hard drive that was only set up for this presentation, so there's no email going in and out. It was on my other stuff. I get more than 1,200 emails a day. All right, in here, we're going to pretend that there's stuff you could see.
Right.
This first column would have a little icon if that person is in your address book. Then it would have their name, and that would be like first and last name. Then they would have their email address. You would click on the one that is incorrect, and then you would click where it says remove from list, because your mail program looks two places when it starts to put in emails, when you're typing in the person's name. It's looking at your address book,
Right.
and it's looking at this list that the mail program keeps. Yes, Bill?
You can also do it by creating a new message and putting that email address in it. Click on the down arrow, drop-down menu will show up, and it'll say remove from previous recipient.
I don't know that one.
If they're just in your mailbox, or if they're just in your address book, it will not show up. But if it's something you send to somebody that's not in your address book, if you right-click on that name in the to line, and one of the choices will be removed from previous recipients list. But it must be one that's not in your address book.
Let's see if I've got any sent mail. Bring that up. Okay, so I would go into and I would right-click it.
No, just click on the name that's in the new message window.
Okay.
Just create a new message and type in the name of the person that's
Okay, I got it.
in question.
Okay, but that was a good question, George. Not like the last one. All right, now I'm going to go to Dan.
This is another email question. I sent an email to a gentleman in the UK. He has replied, sent something back with bounces. He's been bounced a couple of times, and then it finally works. Any idea?
No idea.
Are you resending? Or does it just say I can't deliver, then he gets it?
He just sends back an email that says it's bounced once or twice,
And then you send it again?
and then the second or third time I get the email from him.
Okay, he could be using an incorrectly configured email server, such as at a place I used to work, where if their email server was down, they didn't have anything else out on the internet to collect mail until they got their email server back up. So if it's incorrectly configured that way, the ISP, whoever's handling his email, if they only have the one email server or the pair of email servers and their internet connection is out for some reason, it's going to bounce back because it can't find it.
The family mail server that we have got filled up by careless other family members when it stands for the mailbox. So there was no space for messages coming to me. so the senders were getting messages back saying mailbox full. And then as soon as my brother went out and cleaned up, then the mail was delivered. And he,
So
the sender never had to resend.
So
So it could be a delivery error.
Yeah, so the other piece of information I need is, you said it bounced back, but when you read the error message, and you get about a third of the way down,
It's bouncing back in English. The guy in the UK hits reply, types reply, hits send, and it bounces back to him.
so it's,
So I don't see error.
no, you wouldn't see errors. Well, so something wrong on his setup. He's got something wrong in either his address list or how he's addressing people's emails. So it's not your problem, not your fault. He needs to go talk to his user group. Because you weren't spoofing addresses. You weren't doing spam mail again like you used to.
No, not in this case.
One of the problems that I hear people express is something doesn't work with the computer, and you automatically assume it's your fault or something you failed to do. Sometimes stuff just happens. And when you're talking about email, remember there's a receiver, there's a sender. If the sender is having problems, well then the problem is on his end, not necessarily your end.
Just to muddy the waters, just to get a little bit more, I've had a problem with my brother, who is, well, he had a problem with him all the time, but
we don't do those kinds of
with his, yeah, right. With his email, he works for municipal government as a city engineer, and the people who provide their email have some ridiculous spam filtering set up so that sometimes I'll send him an email and it'll decide that my email is spam and bounce it back at me. And I don't know if that might be operating there.
The fellow in England, he's not a collector and seller of Rolex watches by any chance. But one of the things that I have had happen in my family is my father was sending me a joke. It had the word Rolex in the joke, and it went right to the spam filter. So there are certain things certain words you don't put in an email if you expect it to make it through a spam filter, even though unsolicited email filter. My apologies to the folks at Cornell. Spam is a trademark thing.
Just lowercase, don't uppercase.
Okay.
Well, this is a gentleman who's written many books on postage stamps.
Okay. So chances are that he wasn't doing anything like that. All right. Do you have a
Well, it's a quick intro.
I'll let you finish up. Okay, I'll let you finish up then. You're going to be our last one. Then we got to go through
And I won't be short.
Okay.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm curious if anyone has had any experience with little Pico projectors, because I see them in the stores and they look interesting, but I never have a feel for, I never see one in use.
What are these?
The little tiny Pico projector.
LED.
Yeah.
And I hear Mr. Decker is raising his hand. I think he has some knowledge.
I bought one off of Whoop a few weeks ago. You can use it with an iPod or iPad, and in a lit room, you can get a picture about this wide that's visible. The thing that sold me, one guy, in Whoop, if you've never been to that website, one of the things you need to do is go look at the comments that people put in there, and you get a lot of interesting information. And one guy reported he had one, and he really enjoyed going in his daughter's bedroom at night, and when they were telling stories, they project the story on the ceiling of the bedroom. And in a dark room, it'll project fairly large. It's responsive. I was tickled. I could bring it in if you want to see it sometime.
How much was it? What other ways to hook up?
I'm not sure, $100, something like that.
Yeah, they're not.
I think you got next month's presentation.
I sometimes think we ought to have a show and tell where people just do 10, 15-minute segments.
Actually, that's a good idea. How do you spell it?
Huh? Pico projector?
P-I-C-O.
Yeah, they're just little tiny, you know how you versions of this?
The size of
Micro
an
computer.
iPhone.
Well, that's too big now, so we have Pico computers, Pico projectors, P-I-C-O. Yes.
I would tell you, the last user group meeting I was in St. Louis, they had once a year, they had what they call stations.
Okay.
And once a year, they'd set up like 4 different, like, during the normal 1 hour. And like, we had a guy that would bring in, one year, a guy was a train, a model train guy.
Okay.
He brought in the model train business, and he showed that. And so you had different people show little software things that they liked. And you don't get everybody in each time, but, once a year, there'd be somebody that had a new one, and just like this, where you kind of just go view it for 15 minutes or something like that. Makes it tough on you with the video, but you'd have to go around, and just kind of do each little working group, and you just kind of walk from station to station and look at them, and some you're not interested in.
And that's the St. Louis group does this?
Yeah.
I'd like to tag on to that. In the woodworking club I'm in, one time I sponsored a woodworking club meeting where we had, the subject was routers, using a router to route wood.
Okay.
And we had 5-minute time for people to show things that they did. And we set it up with an air horn that would be on a truck. Beep, you're done. You're done. And you can go through a lot of things real fast, and you get people that are interested and can go talk with the individual and get more information.
And to give you an example, like, if you were into, say, eBay, had a lot of stuff on eBay. Why, one guy set up a little thing with a shadow box and showed you how you make good photos, that you were going to put on eBay. So those are, kind of examples. It was before income tax time. One guy, one year what they did is they had 3 different guys bring in their income tax software, what they used, and let each one of them kind of demonstrate how that worked if you wanted to.
So it's sort of like a shootout.
Yeah, well, it didn't have to be it was just, information in little sections of the...
Like speed dating.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, same thing.
3 minutes, jump up and go to the next woman.
Put it down in...
One more thing. Since you have the root page up there.
Yeah, click on it. Put it up because you mentioned it.
Click on the comments. Where do you go? It's over on the right below that box on the right side.
Okay, right side, below, discussion on Woot, or just down?
Up, no. Go up. That gray box on the right.
Today's Woot?
Down.
To the right, discussion on today's move, right down
To
button.
the right of I want one, right there.
Okay, just click right there.
No, down at the bottom.
Join this discussion, 108 comments. There we go.
And this is where you can read through, and there are a lot of asinine comments, but they're educated people that put good information there.
How about uneducated people that put good comments? Just because you got a college degree doesn't mean that you know what you're talking about. Okay. People see this, so I can take it off your screen? All right, it's 11 o'clock. I ran over.
3 minutes after.
I was bad. For those of you who are visiting us, do you sort of get an idea of what user group's about? Yeah, it can be boring. Yeah, but So what we're going to do is have our raffle. We're going to do raffle. We're going to do raffle, right? Okay, we're going to do raffle. After we do raffle, then we're going to have a short 10-minute break. And then after that, we're going to split into 2 groups. Mr. Baldiff, are you going to handle now this for me, sir? Don?
I'm
Are
sorry.
you still willing to handle novice?
Yeah, we'll do that.
Okay, Don will handle novice. I'll be doing the main presentation on a product called Parallel 7. So, raffle is for members only. And you should have, if you're a member, you should already have a ticket. One of the fun things we do is I put my ticket up so you can watch them. Okay, Windows on the Mac. And I would ask you to turn off your cell phone.
He didn't want to go into that big detail. There's a lot of confusion.
Windows on the Mac.
Sure, he'll be there after December.
Few things to know about the presentation that I'm doing today. You're probably going to think, wow, Windows is running pretty fast, etc. Well, actually, it's running slower than it normally would on a machine of this speed because I'm running my operating system in parallel, the Windows operating system, from an external USB hard drive. So that's a slower kind of device. So the speeds you're going to get on your machines are going to be faster than what you see today. Next thing, unlike some of the other things that I've demoed, Dropbox and such, I've been using Parallel since Parallel version 2. So I've got about 7 years of experience using Parallel, since about 2002, 2003. The other thing I want to preface is, before I do the presentation, people will ask me, why would I want to run Windows? Okay. Well, sometimes you have to run Windows because of hardware issues. Give you the case in point. My sister, the retired home ec teacher, has a Huskava, I call it a sewing machine. She says it's a serger. Okay, and it can do, decal, it's just, okay, high-end thing. Well, the Huskava, apparently they don't know that Microsoft came out with any operating systems newer than Windows 98, because all of the software that runs for Huskava runs on Windows 98 and nothing newer. So in her particular instance, she needs to be able to run Windows on her Mac Mini so she can use her server. Other people have similar instances with other types of devices. I'm thinking of someone that I knew who worked for Lion Apparel. He was one of their research people. In fact, I think he's one of the founders. And he had all of this legacy equipment for testing temperatures, thermocouples and such. They were going into black boxes. All this stuff ran with only Windows software, and it was older Windows software. Well, he had the need to be able to run Windows for that reason. The other thing I want to make sure that I make clear is that I'm going to show you the solution, free solution that comes with your Mac from Apple for doing this, and that's called Boot Camp. I'm not going to take a lot of questions about that. And then I'm going to roll right into Parallels. Parallels lets you run other operating systems other than just Microsoft products. So with that said, let's get started. So this is a video that's up on the Apple website. And the volume is really, really low, and I apologize for that. But what they're doing is they're showing you what your different choices are. Here they're showing you that in your utilities folder, there's this program called Boot Camp Assistant. That would let you then set up Boot Camp on your machine. Here they're showing you that your hard drive would be partitioned. In other words, part of your hard drive is going to be Windows only, part of it's going to be Mac only. And this program does all that. Now, keep one other thing in mind. You have to already have a valid copy of Windows that you're going to install. So, Boot Camp is not going to provide that. In this case, they're running Vista. God help them. Okay. So, and they're showing you the product that can do that. It's Parallels and Fusion. There's also a free open software product called VirtualBox, which will also let you do this kind of thing. This whole technology is called virtualization. So you're running an Apple II software on a Macintosh, or you're running Commodore software on a Macintosh. It's called virtualization. Then they went on to talk about sometimes people don't need to run Windows. I've seen people buying software to run Windows, and then they buy a copy of Windows 7 just because they want to be able to run Microsoft Word. There is a suite of Microsoft Office made for the Macintosh. You can just buy that and put it on your Mac. Then you're running with just one operating system. Now, that particular video is available on the Apple website, or if you want, I've got a copy of it on my machine. So after the presentation, if you got a flash drive, time permitting, I can just give you that video. It gives you a nice overview of what the choices are. Okay, with that said, let's go back into play mode here. And let's go to our next one. So, boot camp. This is the icon of the boot camp. Notice what they're showing you here. 2 hard drives, because the essential hardware element of boot camp is it takes the hard drive in your Mac and it splits it into 2 pieces. One part's going to be for the Windows operating system only. The other part's going to be for the Macintosh system only.
Windows or whatever other system.
Boot camp only runs Windows operating systems. If you want to run Fedora, Solaris, Mandriva, Ubuntu, Google Chromium, I'm trying to think of another one, SOL. Okay, so what are the advantages of boot camp? Native speed and compatibility. It's got complete control of the computer when you're running the Windows operating system. Okay, if you're using boot camp and you put Windows on it, Windows is running on your Mac. It's got complete control of the hardware. It's not sharing it with anything else. Simple installation, yeah, they've got that down pat. Mac device drivers, it's built in. It's going to have it so that when you're running Windows on your Mac, it's able to use your eyesight camera, it's able to use the network ports, it recognizes the USB ports, the drives, everything. So the hardware is taken care of. No disks to burn. Previous versions of Boot Camp, you'd have to go onto a website and burn a disk of Mac drivers. So they eliminated
that. That came back, though. They did not eliminate. They did not eliminate that in Boot Camp. It's back again.
It is?
Ooh. If you don't have, because your Macs don't come with media anymore.
Oh,
so
that's right, because they used to have it on the media.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll change that slide. And then last but not least, you have the ability to exchange files with the other side, but it's constrained. Yes, Drew?
Could this be on an external drive, or that's what you're doing with it right here, right?
Because
you have Boot Camp on an external
I'm running
drive?
Lion on an external drive. Boot Camp, no. It has to be on the main drive. So disadvantages. Your boot drive is partitioned. Okay, so you don't have as much space for your Mac stuff as you did. And then you have the whole problem of managing space. Do I have enough space for Windows? Not enough space? Do I have to repartition the stuff? Do I have to change the allocation? It gets to be a pain. If you want to run Windows, you have to restart your computer and then tell it to boot into Windows. It's like having 2 hard drives. You tell it which hard drive you're going to boot from. Are you going to boot into Mac OS X, or are you going to boot into the Windows operating system? Only Windows XP or above with Boot Camp. And some models of Macs require Windows 7. They won't run Vista or Windows XP. So in the case of my sister, she wants to do legacy stuff, Windows 98, second edition, it wouldn't work in Boot Camp. And then, last but not least, exchange files. It's one way, because your other partition is formatted NTFS. It's not formatted FAT32, which means that while you can read from NTFS, but you can't write to it. not unless you've got other special stuff going on that boot camp doesn't give you. Okay. So that's boot camp. Main advantage, it's free, it's there, and if it's only something you run once in a blue moon, okay, sometimes you'll take the annoyance of having smaller hard drive space. They have it there when you want it.
It's free if you have a Windows stick.
Okay, when we talk about Microsoft, nothing is free. So you have to have a proper install disk. Now, upgrades. If you bought Windows 7 upgrade, that's not going to cut it. It's got to be the real deal, Windows 7 install. Otherwise, you're going to have to install your previous operating system and then upgrade it to Windows 7. That becomes just too onerous. All right. So, yes.
With Office, how is that related?
Office is another set of software that you can buy from Microsoft, and they make a version that runs just on the Mac, and then they have another version that runs under Windows 2000, and then they have another version of Office that was meant to work with Windows XP, Homer Pro, and they have another version of Office that was meant to run with Windows Vista, and they had another version that's meant for to run with Windows 7, which would be Office 2010.
Which is why you might want to other Windows protocols.
If I'm going to run Microsoft Office documents, that's what I need to do. I'm just going to buy Office for the Mac and install it. And then, yes, unless, as Sean has said, you need some other program from Microsoft, like Access, Publisher, OneNote. Actually, they got OneNote sort of rolled into the Mac. Yeah, it's not, yeah, okay. Anyway.
When you say a Windows operating system or that, what about an app that, requires a PC? You have to have the Windows on the computer and run that?
When you buy a program, software program, an application, it tells you what it's expecting to see in terms of hardware, operating system, and so it's going to tell you. It's going to have that little Windows logo next to it, for Windows, XP, Home, or above, or Windows Vista. If you want to run that program, I'm thinking of a game that I used to really like. It was called Captains. It would only run on a Microsoft operating system. It would not run under a Mac OS X. They didn't make a version for the Mac.
I know there's some graphic stuff that's that way.
Yeah. Okay, so there's this other product, Parallel Desktop for the Mac. Fairly robust product. It's been around since about 2002, 2003. They were the first ones to really get it right. Now, there were other Windows emulators before, Connectrix, and there was an emulator that came from Microsoft. But they just made it just difficult enough that it wasn't worth the trouble. So with Parallel Desktop 7 for the Mac, price point $79.99. If you already have a older version of Parallels, then it's only $50, $49.99. Or if you're switching from a competing product, which is Fusion, which is another company's product.
You still need a copy of it.
Still need a copy of Windows or whatever the operating system is. Okay, so what's the advantages? And my idea is I'm going to roll through this PowerPoint, then I'm just going to launch Parallels and show you what it looks like. And I'm going to launch a couple operating systems. Run side by side with OS X. In other words, in Parallels, my Windows operating system and my Mac operating system are both running at the same time. I don't have to reboot to use one or the other. Yeah.
Can you run more than one version of Mac OS X, OS 10 with Parallels? Can you run like Lions?
You can, but you would not be using Parallels for the Mac. You'd be using Parallels Server virtualization. So Parallels has a program where on this Intel box, you could be running these Linux operating systems, these Unix operating systems, these Microsoft operating systems, and these Mac operating systems. Typically, one box being a server for all these different types of functions. It's like, let's say your mail server. You want to run it in Squirrel Mail. Squirrel Mail, you're either running under BSD Unix or you're running under Fedora. Okay, so you'd have that running on this box, and it's doing your mail services. And then you've got another one that's doing SQL Server, and because you're doing SAP, you have to say more Microsoft. So you'd be running a Microsoft Server 2003 in virtualization, and you'd be running your SQL database inside that. All inside the same computer.
This says Leopard, Snow Leopard, and Lion.
Correct. That version of Parallels will work with those versions of the Mac operating system. But if you want to run Parallels online, you want to be running Parallels 7. Parallels 7. Okay, going forward. So advantages. So you want to run Access under Windows 2000? In Parallels, I can have that running at the same time that I'm running FileMaker under OS X, Snow Leopard, Lion, Leopard. Simple installation, Mac device drivers. So in other words, I'm able to use my webcam, my EyeSight camera when I'm on the Windows side. If I plug in a flash drive, it'll ask me which operating system I want to be using that flash drive. If I put in a CD, it'll ask me the same thing. Okay, so that's good because you got access to your hardware. No disks to burn. You can exchange files. They're both running at the same time. If I want to move a file from the Mac side to the PC side, I can just drag it from this window into that window. It's now over on the Mac side. Now it's on the Windows side. That's a very nice convenience. And you have control over how much they talk to each other. So you can make it where it's really restrictive, or you can make it where your My Documents folder is the same as your Home folder on the Mac side. And some people want to run it that way. You can run many different versions of Microsoft OSs. I've run DOS 2 inside Parallels. I've run Windows for Workgroups, 3.1.1, 3.3.1, whatever it was, early days. I've run Windows NT in this. Yeah.
Question of how many parallel operating systems can you have running at one time?
The constraint's going to be how much hard drive space you have, how much RAM you have.
So you could have multiple systems all running parallel.
When I was redoing my computer certifications, so I was taking classes in Linux and Red Hat, CompTIA, etc. Okay. Now, I'm a very much married man, and when my wife speaks, I listen. And so one day she said, "Bill, you have too many computers on the dining room table. We want to use this to eat once in a while." Well, what was going on was I had my Novell box up there. I had my Macintosh computer. I had a Windows computer. So those, CompTIA, and some of the Microsoft certifications. And I also had a Linux box. Well, okay, I went one day, wow, wait a minute. Novell, forget Novell. I don't need to know Novell anymore. So I can just, decommission that box. But with the others, hey, with Parallels, I can have all of those operating systems available to me and put it on a little Mac Mini, have it in another room, keep the wife happy, and yet I'm still able to really use the operating system when I need to. Yeah. Okay. So, now, in boot camp, I can't run Windows 95 or 98. The farthest back I can go is Windows XP. Alright. Well, sometimes you need to be able to run the older stuff. So, DOS, Microsoft DOS, Windows 95, Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows NT, XP, Vista, Windows 7. They got it covered. Plus, you can run all this other stuff. So, if I'm trying to keep up to date with what used to be called Sun Computer, is now part of Oracle, I want to keep up to date with my Solaris. Oh, I can run Sun Solaris inside Parallels to be able to make sure I know how to replicate servers and that kind of stuff. So those are the advantages. And again, the small little text here says, note, Windows sold separately. Okay.
And you're gonna buy the.
So here are the disadvantages. Because you've got 2 operating systems or 3 operating systems all running at the same time on the same computer, you have to share processing power. So it's going to be a little bit slower. Slow enough to really be aggravating? No. It also requires more RAM than Boot Camp, because with Boot Camp, Windows would be running the computer or OS X would run the computer. Under Parallels, they're both running at the same time, so you need a little more RAM. But we've got plenty of RAM in our machines now. So shares RAM with OS X, and then this must be purchased. You have to buy a copy of Parallels. Okay, so desktop 7 for the Mac. I'm going to leave the apple on the screen while we handle any other questions at this point. Otherwise, yep.
One of the advantages you didn't list, but you can actually resize the partition with Parallels at any point. You can change it. If you need more hard drive space and you've got it, you can change it, enlarge it.
Okay. Now,
Or the
when you're doing
virtual
Parallels,
machine.
you're not partitioning your hard drive. It's got files which are virtual hard drives. So in the same way that when you have a disk image and you open it up and it acts like it's a CD or DVD, sometimes I used to put Mac OS 9 in a disk image, and I'd run it from in there. And then when I didn't want it, it would go back to just being a file. That's how it handles these operating systems. So because they're files, you can do things to constrain them in terms of size. Let's get out of this. Let's launch Parallels now. Okay, so down here, I've got Parallels desktop. Launching it. Okay, this is my virtual machine window. So I have 3 operating systems that I've installed into Parallels. Windows XP Pro. Second one is Ubuntu Linux, and it's 1104. And I've also got Chrome OS installed. I'm going to launch Windows XP. To do that, Parallels, I would put my pointer on the little power on button up there and click. And I'm running under a trial license. That's why I'm getting that message. Very important point, though. You can download this stuff. They will email you a trial activation code. It's good for about 19, 20 days. So you can try it, really get to use it beforehand. And here it's telling me that it's giving me this little mother notice that I'm running from an external hard drive, so it's saying don't disconnect it when you're running the operating system, which is a good thing. So, what do you see? Windows XP. So it's loading. Now, remember, in Lion, we can run programs full screen. Parallel 7 lets us run these operating systems in separate full screen. So here we go. Load your personal settings. Okay, now, remember, you're really running Windows. So that means anti-spyware software, antivirus software, If you're running an older version, you're not running Windows 7, you want to have your defragger on it, all that, your usual crap cleaner, that kind of stuff. You want to have that stuff there. Because you're running Windows, so you got to do the stuff that you do when you're running Windows. So here we've got Microsoft running, and I'm running in full screen mode in Lion. Lion, if I move my pointer to the top and I push, my menu bar comes back. And in this upper right-hand corner, there's a blue icon. I'm going to click on that, and now I'm going back to where I've got Microsoft XP running just in the window. Now I'm going to launch another operating system. Let's bring up, we'll bring up Ubuntu. We'll just put that off to the side. Okay, and it's running, do not disconnect, yeah, I hear you. You would not be getting those warnings that it was running from your internal hard drive. So we'll wait for that to come up, and while I'm over here, let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on in this section. Okay, all of this stuff here, this is Parallels Tools. This is my standard on-off button. So if I needed to clothesline this thing from over here, I can tell it to suspend it, pause it, shut it down, stop it. You have all of the ability to take snapshots of your OS that you would have running just under Windows. There's Ubuntu Linux coming up in the background there. So let's go through some of these little guys down here. So I'm going to be working through these things. This first one is the keyboard. I'm just going to click on it. And you can see that all of the standard Windows keys that you need to press, print screen, alt print screen, control alt del, they're all there so that you don't have to do it from the keyboard. You can just from down there move up, click on it. It'll give you the appropriate command. Next to that, we've got USB. These are all the USB devices that are currently on this piece of hardware. I can turn these things on or off. So if I don't want it to look at my mouse, I want it just to look at the trackpad, I can do that. So Windows would only be controlled from the trackpad, or vice versa. Probably if the trackpad be OS X only, use the mouse for the other. This would be for a special program where you need to have a true Microsoft mouse. I mean, there are some programs for that. Yes?
Got a second monitor on this, and for Windows full screen and that.
Yeah, I've done that.
Keyboard.
I've done that.
Could you say, Windows, you use this keyboard, and this keyboard for that keyboard?
Yeah. What you're doing is you're saying, in Parallels, you're saying, for this operating system, ignore this keyboard. You only are allowed to talk to these devices. Ignore this flash drive. You're only allowed to talk to that flash drive. Ignore this CD-ROM burner. Only talk to this CD-ROM burner. It also has a virtual floppy disk because with some Windows programs we still need you need to have that floppy disk, so they do it in virtual. All right, so anyway, this is where we would control those things. And then we click over here. This is where we're controlling whether we want to connect a physical device to the CD, or do we want to connect an ISO image? So one of the things that's very nice is that when I'm installing an operating system using Parallels, I don't have to have a physical CD or DVD. I can have an ISO image that's on an external hard drive or a server, and I can point it to that, and it'll use that to install the operating system. And that's very, very convenient. Or flash drive.
Install software.
Or software, yeah. And the other thing to keep in mind, now, for home use, you don't care about this. Parallels is very, very good about mass deployment. So they've got these white papers on just how to do it if you got to roll out 500 copies of this. You can also use it to roll out 500 duplicate machines. Now remember, when you're rolling out parallels, you can also be rolling out those operating systems that are already pre-configured with the applications. All right, so next to that, oops, excuse me, I'm on the wrong one. Next to that, click off. This is for the virtual floppy disk. This is for your sound settings. Now it's showing us, this is where it's telling us where this hard drive is. It's an image file, and this particular hard drive, the one that's running the Windows XP Pro, is inside a folder called Shared, which is inside Users, inside a folder called Parallels, inside that's where it is. So let me just bring that up real quick in a Finder window. There. Lion hard drive. I apologize. I am not as fluent in Lion as I should be. But this will give you an idea. We're on an external hard drive called Lion, inside the Users folder, inside the Shared folder, inside a Parallels folder. That little file there, that PVM, that's the hard drive that has that Windows operating system and all its applications and all of its SharePoint settings and all the other stuff. So we're doing it with a file. It's telling me that the actual physical size of this is 9.74 gigabytes. But Windows thinks it's running on a 32 gig hard drive. So it's one of these things where it's called an expanding volume. Because it's a file, they can make it bigger, they can make it smaller, and you have the ability to compress them. You know, if you've been doing a lot of stuff, taking programs on, taking programs off, putting data on, taking data off, you can, from Parallels, tell it to compress that image file. No, they say compress. Let me go up to here, virtual machine. Yeah, they call it compress. So if I compress it right now, it would take it from 9.5 gigs to 9.5 gigs. Not a big deal. With some of the other ones, Windows 7, I've had it where it gets as big as 16, 18 gigs. I tell it to compress down. It takes it on back down to about 12, 14 gigs. So you get a couple gigabytes of savings. It's just typical, you know, it's been bright and just basically yeah. Why should you have empty space represented in the file? Okay, moving over just a little bit farther here, we'll call it no. This is where you can control just how much this thing interacts with your Mac. Right now I've got it set so that all Mac OS X folders are shared with Windows. In other words, from Windows I can get to those folders. And all my Mac disks, so any Macintosh disks I've got there formatted, you know, journal. But if I click that one, my Documents folder is the same as my Home folder. So it's going to keep all the stuff in one place for Documents. So that's sort of interesting. All right, now $300. And then over here, it's just telling me that I've got parallel tools installed, and I'm just going to click that, make them disappear. And then over here, I can control how this thing is coordinating, operating with Mac OS X. Parallels has a thing for Windows operating systems called coherence. If I click and say, hey, let's do coherence, enter coherence. You got 4 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to get the rest of these guys to go away. So I'm now in coherence. So up on my toolbar, the Windows operating system running in its own window goes away. It's now running seamlessly with Mac OS X. So up here, I've got this program that I've got right now is Smart Defrag that is running under Windows. Over here, this particular program is my email program that I've got running under Windows. And this one over here is Windows malware.
So that's your system tray.
Yeah. They just put it up in the menu bar. Now, let's go back to virtual machine. Let's go back to Windows here.
I haven't put iCloud on. I guess it'd be.
I'm missing one thing I should have here, and I'm not quite sure why it's not here. Let me get Smart Defrag out of there. Oh, wait a minute. Let me go back for just a second. Notice what they did in Coherence. I'm running a Windows program, so my maximize, minimize, close would be in the upper right-hand corner, but I don't have the usual Windows icons. They're giving me the little stoplight, the red, yellow, and green, so that I know that I'm in Coherence.
When it does defrag, it does it just on its partition?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just doing its thing. I mean, it's doing Windows, defrag. Now, we could click here and say, hey, let's click on a disk, and let's go into, here. Actually, I just want to bail out of this right now. I think it's because I've got more than one operating system going that it had to curtail some stuff. But down here in parallels, so I'm down in my dock, you can see that I've got all of these sub-controls going on. I'm going to exit out of Ubuntu, because that was a mistake probably running it. Because I'm stressing this machine out, I'm going to tell that to shut down. Come back to Windows Pro. Here we go. This was the window I was expecting to come up when I switched to Coherence. And one of the few complaints I have with Apple is that sometimes they're too subtle with their stuff. I can't say that about the folks at Parallel. So they give you this huge honking red arrow, and it's pointing at this new thing on your menu bar. So that's where I would be able to control all of this stuff. I could exit Coherence in that. And that's also where I'm going to go to get to my start tray. So we're going to tell, thank you, we saw that, we're going to close that out. And then I can come up here to Parallels. I'm going to exit Coherence at this point. Oh, wait, before I do that, one of the other things in terms of the interface that they've added since Parallel 6 is in your dock. Over on the part of the dock where you have shortcuts to files and folders, they give you another folder. This is shortcuts to all of your Windows programs.
Or files.
Depends on what you got pinned in your start menu. Okay. So let's just real quick go in here, and this is very important, I know. Can I run FreeCell, and can I run, so FreeCell works. It's a new game. I'm running Windows at the same time that I'm running OS X. I could be running Access and be doing database stuff while I'm using Mac OS X. So I've got two machines, two operating systems, one interface. I'm ready to book it. Yeah.
If you wanted to capture part of the Windows screen, could you Command Shift 4 and copy like the King of Hearts there?
Yeah.
And where does it show up on
It's going to be on the Mac side. It's going to be on the Mac side. Okay. But again, remember you're running Windows, so you get all the advantages and disadvantages of running Windows. One thing about networking, it's not doing direct talking. So the Microsoft operating system is talking to Parallels. Parallels is then talking to the Mac operating system. So in terms of my network access, it's going through all of the Macintosh networking stuff. When I go to print, it's going to go through the CUPS printing system. That means I don't have to reconfigure all my printers to be able to, I can just say, hey, print it to the default Mac printer and such. Do it. Because when you get into Unix, or excuse me, into Linux and printer drivers, that becomes a big hassle. Yeah.
There is another option, which has disadvantages and disadvantages. We had a online briefing here a couple years ago, CodeWeaver, crossover Mac. Big advantage is you don't need to buy Windows. The disadvantage is it doesn't work with every program that runs in Windows. But if somebody has a need to get just one or two Windows programs working, I'd suggest you try that first. You don't open yourself up to running Windows on your Mac and all of the external problems.
And that particular virtualization product, which Parallels is built on, and CodeWeaver is built on, is called Wine.
Yes.
And Wine stands for Wine is not an emulator. But that technology is what both of these products are built on. This has got the convenience factor of if you have, let's say you're running SAP accounting module, and it's expecting to be running on an Intel, HP, Lenovo box, blah, 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 with operating system such and such, it's going to work in parallel. CodeWeaver, maybe not. Wine, almost certainly not. Because SAP uses ASP and .NET technology and ActiveX technology, and that's Microsoft only, and you got to have the Microsoft operating system to do that.
Yeah, well, they freely admit
Yeah.
there are programs that won't run. But if you just have one or two that you need, you ought to check it out first.
Yep. What Tim says is gospel. I don't know how to say it any clearer than that. No, he's thinking clearly. Yes, George.
If I wanted to run, say, wanted to experiment with Linux and learn a little bit about Linux, do I need Parallels or any of these emulators? Can I run Linux directly on my Mac?
You could run it directly on your Mac, but you're going to have to either run it from a CD or a DVD or a flash drive, or you're going to have to install it on your boot drive. So, yeah, you can do it with an external hard drive. Yeah, you're right. It's just that when you get to the point where you're using a bunch of these things, it's just so much easier to put parallels there, where I can just say, okay, I'm going to be working with Chromium, I'm going to be working with this. The one thing I didn't show, and I've got to hook up here, is, let me get back into parallels here. That's the coherence. If I say I'm in Parallels, but I'm not in one of the virtual engines, and I say new, I can download and install Chromium OS free. I can download and install Fedora. They've already got it set. All I got to do is download it. It launches. I can download and try Ubuntu Linux. I can download and try Windows 8. It's not worth it. The developer version isn't worth it, I don't think, for regular people. Yeah.
Those are free?
Yeah. And it's coming right in from the folks at Parallel. So they've already got it tweaked and conformed to work. So in any case, we've run out of time today. I apologize for my bad time management. If you have other thoughts, questions, critiques you want to make about the presentation, send me an email. I'll do my very best to answer it. I have additional materials that I can email to you that are directly from the folks at Parallel. So even if I don't have the answer to the question, I can point you to the guys.
Class, but not seminars.